Hey, you're about to see a clip from about a 2-hour discussion that Andrew Cake, Emily Albrecht, and I had about the Dobbs oral arguments that we recently heard at the Supreme Court. So this is a clip from that, but if you want to watch the entire discussion and Q&A, that link will be in the description. Thanks so much. Emily, let's jump back and talk about the whole viability versus 15 weeks thing that was being discussed. And the European laws, because I had you do some fact checking today about the European laws, and I was very interested. I mean, not only how quickly and well you did that task, you did a really good job. So I want you to just kind of set that up, and then tell us what you learned today.
Yeah, so basically, as we talked about, there's kind of a couple different ways that the Supreme Court case could ultimately go down, because the pro-life lawyers eventually kind of started making an argument to overturn Roe and Casey entirely, but there's also that kind of middle ground option that was being discussed of what if we just got rid of the viability marker and moved it to 15 weeks, which is essentially what the Mississippi law was doing, right? It was saying that we're going to ban abortions after 15 weeks as opposed to after viability. Of course, there are being exceptions. So the question that came up a lot was, is 15 weeks a better line than viability? And as a lot of pro-life people have been pointing out, and have been pointing out for years, that earlier line of 15 weeks seems way more in line with what the rest of the world, or the good countries in the world, are doing. So a lot of people have pointed out the fact that the US is on this very short and not very good list of countries who allow abortion as late as we do, like North Korea, Russia, China, like not a list you really want to be on. And a lot of people have pointed that out, as well as the fact that European countries, all these European countries, have these earlier bans on abortion, and we should be more like them. It seems weird that we aren't following the European kind of model of having these bans earlier. So 15 weeks really isn't unreasonable, is the argument. Like, it's just consistent with what a lot of the rest of the world is doing. And so when presented with that, the pro-choice lawyer responded by saying that those European abortion bans, those that are happening earlier, those are really just nominal bans. They're bans in name only. They're not actually in practice. In practice, you can get an abortion way later than that. And so our point that pro-life people have been bringing up for a long time, that the US laws are so much more liberal than these European laws that are really restrictive, isn't true, because the European laws really aren't as restrictive as pro-life people have been saying that they are. And she specifically mentioned England and Canada. But she said that. She said England and Canada have basically the same laws that we do. So she was just generally making a statement about all the European countries, and then specifically name dropped England and Canada. And so my job today was to go look up and try to fact check that information. And not super shockingly, the truth is more complicated than both she made it and the pro-life people that I've heard make that statement for years have made it. It seems to be somewhere in the middle. So here is what I basically found. I was able to find data on 27 different European countries plus Canada, because she mentioned Canada. So I included that in there. So 27 countries plus Canada. 22 of them have 10 to 14 week bans. Couple countries don't. Sweden has 18 weeks. Cyprus has 28 weeks. The UK, which is I'm assuming is what she was referring to by England, the UK has 24 weeks. Canada has no restrictions, but in practice it's 24, so that's complicated. And then there's 2 countries where it's completely illegal. So the main ones we're talking about here is the 22 out of 27 plus Canada that have 10 to 14 week abortion bans. So when Rickelman's the lawyer for the pro-choice side, so when Rickelman mentioned that the UK and Canada specifically have laws that are much more in line with the US, she was correct about that, because Canada has those no restrictions, but in practice it's basically 24, and the UK has 24 weeks. However, when she referenced the idea that Europe has these kind of nominal bans as a whole, I think she's partially right. So of those 22 countries that have those 10 to 14 week abortion bans, I would consider 12 out of those 22 nominal bans, meaning it seems incredibly easy to get an abortion after that. I found a ridiculous amount of exceptions, or ability to just get a few people on a committee of doctors to just sign off and say, yep, this person needs it for not a health of the mother reason. So when I was looking at that, I wasn't looking at there being exceptions for health of the mother or fetal abnormality. I'm talking about exceptions for basically any reason. You could get it after 10 to 14 weeks for any reason, sometimes up to 24 weeks. A lot of those countries, about half of those 12 countries, had the final cutoff at 24 weeks. Like, you can get it for really any reason, totally legal up to 10 to 14 weeks. But then in reality, you can get it all the way up to 24, but really no after 24. And then about half of those countries actually had that extended all the way until birth, where it's technically there's a nominal ban at 10 to 14 weeks, but you do have it available to you if you need it. You can get it pretty easily after that point all the way up until birth. And so kind of the summary there is the reality is it seems to me that there are 22 European countries that have that 10 to 14 week abortion ban. That seems to be what pro-life people are usually referencing when they bring up the idea that European abortion laws are much more conservative than in the United States. That seems to be about 22 countries, but in reality, I think about half of those, about 12 of those countries, Rickelman was correct in saying that the ban is really more nominal, just kind of like exceptions are allowed in the US.
So all that to say, yet again, pro-lifers, be careful where you're getting your facts from and who you're quoting, because sometimes pro-lifers also get facts wrong too. And when you do the research, you find out that it's not as simple as the sound bites say. But we try to be very careful about that at ERI. Once again, that was a clip from about a 2-hour discussion that we had live about the Supreme Court oral arguments in the Dobbs case. If you want to watch the entire discussion, that link is in the description. And subscribe to this channel if you want more pro-life training material like this.